Hello and welcome to Reporters. In this edition we head to the United States and midterm elections billed as a referendum on Donald Trump. Well, much like his presidential battle with Hillary Clinton a couple of years ago, these polls tell a tale of two Americas. We can cross now to our correspondent Philip Crowther in Washington. Hi Philip, you've travelled far and wide in the run-in to these midterm elections. What have you learnt about voters' state of mind?
There are a few basic truths. First of all, among Donald Trump voters from 2016, the president is very, very popular indeed. And he is making this midterm election about himself, a referendum about the president's policies. And if you're from a state where the economy is doing better, and most of the US states fit that definition, then you're even more likely to vote for not the president himself, but for Republicans who are on the ballot in 2018.
We can get more now on Donald Trump's supporters and detractors as we head to Kentucky. This report by Philip Crowther and our correspondents Matthew Mabin and Fanny Allah.
SHAWN Thatcher lives in Jackson, in eastern Kentucky, the bluegrass state, and one of the nation's poorest in its eastern part in the Appalachian Mountains. This is where Thatcher was born and where he grew up. His county gave 69% of its votes to Donald Trump in 2016. Thatcher was one of them.
It's important to get out and vote the midterms because, I mean, you know, if Trump's got any chance of doing the things that he's wanting to do, he's going to have majority control of things. He's got an 87% approval rating here in Jackson, in Breathitt County, eastern Kentucky, and I think he'll win it again. I mean,
I believe
you know,
you. I don't doubt that he's going to win again.
And I think I really hope he keeps control of the House, and maybe they'll get something done. You know, maybe they'll actually quit talking about it and actually do something.
Breathitt County is one of those places where the closures of coal mines hit particularly hard. A quarter of the population left in just 10 years. The coal industry gave jobs to 13,000 people in eastern Kentucky. SHAWN Thatcher was a coal miner, as was his father, his uncles, and his brothers. He took this same road to work until it all closed down.
Everything in that is brand new. Everything in that is top of the line. It's set now since 2015 with nothing in it. I mean, nothing going through it. Nobody working it, nobody doing anything with it. So.
Over 250 miners worked here. They lost their jobs overnight.
Well, they kept telling us, so we're going to open it back up, we're going to open it back up, but they never did, you know, and then by the time you you know, holy crap, this place ain't going to open back up. You know, and there you are scrambling, trying to figure out how you're going to pay your bills.
It's the Democrats and the former president who are to blame, says this former coal miner.
It's Obama's organization's fault that the coal mines did what they did, because he was really pushing to shut the coal mines down. I mean, he said it is out of his own mouth. He said he was going to shut it down, and he did. You know, he was successful.
In truth, though, even under another president, coal mining was never going to fully recover. It's too polluting, but more than anything, too expensive. The price of coal plummeted in 2015.
Yeah, I miss it. I do miss it. It does make me sad, for sure. It's the first time I've been back up here.
SHAWN Thatcher's vote for Donald Trump was largely for his economic promises. He admits, though, that he's still waiting to see the effects with his own eyes. 250 kilometers down the road, a different world in Kentucky's largest city, Louisville. Every Saturday, Meg Stern helps guard the last abortion clinic in Kentucky. Protesters want this state to become the first without one. These so-called pro-life advocates take turns to pray at its doors.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Protesters intimidate and try to guilt women out of entering the clinic.
You believe in nothing.
In Kentucky, as in many other conservative U.S. states, a majority opposes abortion. Meg Stern's role here is to escort women past protesters, as she does here with the woman on the right.
We're going to cross this white line right here, and this is private property, so you can just ignore all these folks. We're just going to keep on walking.
Indeed, the young woman is now protected on private property, but she can hear the cries from outside.
It's very wrong, young lady.
40 years ago, 18 clinics like this one were still standing in Louisville alone. They all closed one after the other, and the Republican governor of Kentucky has promised to close this one too.
Pray for us sinners.
It's pretty frightening that it's the only clinic in Kentucky. What's more frightening are the attempts to close it and to prevent more from opening.
With a new conservative-leaning Supreme Court, the right to an abortion is under threat. Since the election of Donald Trump, confrontations in front of this clinic have multiplied. Meg Stern hopes that the midterm elections will turn things back around.
We have an opportunity with midterm elections to bring more Democrats into our legislative houses that over time will help stop oppressive bills. Trump becoming president has emboldened a lot of extreme approaches to personal beliefs. So I believe we'll see more vandalism and threats and attacks on clinics and providers.
Outside of the larger cities, Donald Trump's supporters refuse that extremist label. Cameron and Jacob live in Beattyville, a town that put its support firmly behind Donald Trump in 2016, to the tune of 81% of the vote. 2 years ago, they were too young to vote, but in these midterm elections, their voices will be heard. Theirs will be emphatic votes for Republican candidates.
Not your fault but mine, and it was your heart on the line. I've really fucked it up this time.
My main thing is I wish people would just, instead of being against him, try to get behind him, because he's the leader of this country. And if you don't support your leader or don't try to do good, you're just hurting yourself.
I think he understands that, people need help, and he honestly wants to give them the help that they need. And at the end of the day, it's not, I feel like he's honestly not worried about being the president. I feel like he just loves America, and he wants to help get us back on top.
The unemployment rate in the United States is at a historic low of 3.6%. But in Beattyville, it's twice as high. The ascent of Donald Trump didn't create jobs in this region. But 2 years later, the hope is still there.
Everything he said so far has happened, so.
What is it, promises made,
promises
kept?
made, promises kept. Yeah.
Cameron's days end with music, but they begin at 5:30 a.m. and work in the oil fields, all for $10 an hour.
It's pretty hard to find a job here, but it's extremely hard to find a job that pays good.
Cameron lives in one of America's poorest regions. 29% of the population lives below the poverty line.
I think Eastern Kentucky has been forgotten about by the government for some time now.
Cameron Brown works here for 10 hours each day. It's a tough job, and one that is at risk.
I think Trump's done more for the poor than anyone else has in my lifetime. Workers, the small business owners, all the manual laborers, everyone just like me.
A long way away from those oil fields, and contrary to Cameron, Meg Stern sees nothing positive in a Trump presidency. She's a Democrat and a feminist, and her political fight is abortion rights.
Since she is only 7 weeks, the price is not going to go up if she has to reschedule.
She works on finding the money for women who can't afford an abortion. In the United States, 75% of women who want one are considered poor.
She had 2 abortions, one because she didn't want to tell her parents, and the other because her dad made her.
Abortion was legalized in the United States 45 years ago, but Meg Stern says that right has been eroding slowly but surely.
Every year since 2015, when more Republicans began holding office, we've seen restrictions on abortion every single session. So my hope is for Democrats to regain a little bit of ground in the House. I feel like a lot of those concepts and the mindset behind being willing to vote for someone like Trump are part of a misunderstanding and a brainwashing, including a fear that is based in ignorance.
That point of view is largely shared by Democrats across the country, and it contributes to the misunderstanding between urban America and rural America. Donald Trump knows how to exploit those differences, and he campaigns almost daily now in Republican strongholds like Richmond. Cameron and his friends are part of that target audience.
Even though he's a billionaire, I really do think he's reaching out to the small business people. So he's for the small guy and I'm the small guy, so I like Trump.
For Cameron and for Trump's voters, the president embodies the fight against Washington, the establishment, and the media. The more headlines Trump makes, the more support he gets in a place like this one.
It is not up to the media. It's not up to the pundits. It's up to you to decide your own fate.
Cameron watches Trump's election rally with hundreds of others who could not get in. Outside in the cold of early autumn, he follows the president's every word.
We're doing a
He brought
number.
coal back
I'm going to be hated so much
for the
by
eastern
some people
United
in this
States.
country that made a
He brought
fortune.
the steel mills
But we're
back.
getting drug prices way down.
He's reaching out
And we
to
started
the
it
small
last
people
Friday
that's
with the
left
signing
behind
of
by
2
everybody
bills.
else. So he's everybody's president.
A whole generation separates Cameron Brown and SHAWN Thatcher.
This is too hard of a life here to not want to be here. No one lives here because, because it's easy. What we've been doing is just not working. Just like with our local government here, it's just not working. Let's have a couple factories, give us a little something that we can stay here at home,
These men see that hope, though, that their region might come back from the brink under Trump, so they are standing by the president and his party.
You got to let them work their way out and see how they're going to go.
You finally have some people starting to step up.
There's a group of people in this country that will not even give him a chance. Let's see what he does, Vote for his agenda, let's see what's up.
But you rescue midterm elections are local elections, and local issues tend to matter most. But these midterms under Donald Trump have also turned into a referendum on the president and a duel between his avid supporters and his passionate opponents. In that sense, not much has changed in Kentucky and in the rest of the country. Two seemingly irreconcilable Americas will be going to the polls.
Tennessee whiskey, you're as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy.
Well, Philip Crowther is still with us in Washington. As we saw from that report, Philip, for his supporters, Donald Trump remains as appealing as ever.
Yes, and the example of Kentucky is particularly interesting because it is almost the exception that confirms the rule here. It is one state, and particularly the region we saw there in the Appalachian Mountains, that has been economically depressed for a long, long time now. And that is one of those regions, as you heard from the people in the report, that is not necessarily improving. But these are Trump voters who believe in the president and who do believe that things will be improving in their state as well. In much of the rest of the United States, if you talk to voters or business owners or anybody really who voted for Donald Trump, they believe he is doing very well indeed as president. And there are are some statistics that they will quote to you and that do back him up. The economy is stronger than it was 2 years ago. Unemployment is down. Some of the US president's policies are particularly popular. Tax breaks, for example. And from those people that you heard from in Kentucky, well, they still believe that if things aren't better now, they will improve in the short or in the long term, even in an economically depressed place like Eastern Kentucky.
We heard from a few bikers there in Kentucky. I want to listen to another soundbite now, and an interesting viewpoint from one of them.
You know, Barack Obama was kind of probably the one president that I thought would do. I thought he would change things. You know, I thought he would really like put America on the, you know, first African-American president. I thought that was a great thing, and I didn't vote for the guy, but I could, you know, that's an appealing thing. You know, we're moving forward as a society, but he just apologized to everybody for what we've done. You know, what our country is and what it's about, and man, I didn't like that.
Interesting take there on Americanness, on Trump and Obama. Philip, are we here in Europe, perhaps particularly in the European media, sometimes guilty of misunderstanding the Trump phenomenon?
I think there might be something to that, because putting America first, as the president has always said he has done during his time in the White House, is something that absolutely works with those who voted for him. Now, that was about a quarter of the population. He believes if those people stand with him, they will also be voting for Republicans in the midterms and swing the balance, or at least keep any defeat in check. Maybe what we don't understand in Europe is just how popular this president is with those who voted for him in 2016 in the first place. And they won't be talking to you about the issues that we tend to concentrate on in Europe. Foreign policy is not a priority. Any kind of treaties or pacts that might no longer exist, take the Paris Climate Change Agreement or the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, that the United States doesn't want to be part of anymore. Those are things that have a big effect on the world stage, but do not with Trump voters. That, I think, is one thing that we as Europeans misunderstand.
Philip Crowther in Washington, thanks ever so much for joining us. That's it for this edition of Reporters. Do join us again next week.